Hey everyone, how's it going? Juan Dhas here, and I wanted to return to the breakdown idea for a lesson video this week and explore body and soul, specifically the B section. This is a tune that came up in a lesson this week, and I honestly just love the tune, so I wanted to share a little bit of an arrangement that I would do that's that's really full and just kind of gives the impression that there's a lot more going on in that section and really fleshes it out a little more. As always, if you have checked out the last lesson that I did that was kind of this style, look for a chart, go listen to a bunch of recordings of the tune if you don't know it yet so that you can follow along. And if you do know it, just feel free to pick up your guitar or just listen and apply it to whatever instrument you're working on. So right off the bat, I would start on this D7, but there's actually an A7 chord that prepares with a 5-1 resolution. Super important. So pick any voicing you want. Personally, I prefer to use this. It just seems fitting for the tune, and it provides a nice motion from the C sharp here in the highest note of the chord to the first note of the melody. So I've got A, G, B flat, and C sharp. So it's A7 flat 9. You can use the open A string if you want. If this stretch here between these two fingers is a little odd. And then I go straight to this kind of an open D chord. It's an A, D, A, D. It's basically a power chord. It's just roots and fifths. And I wanted to deliberately choose that chord because it's very full sounding. Very full sounding. And because I've got the F sharp implied later, you still get that D major sound. Sometimes what I might do whenever I play this is do the same thing, have D in the melody, but play kind of a D Ionian voicing. So I've got a low D triad, open G, which gives you that natural 11. It's a very beautiful sounding chord, so feel free to choose either or depending on what you want to play. And I go straight to this E minor 11 voicing. Now how did I get to E minor 11? Well, in the tune there is an E minor 7 chord right there. Right? But I wanted to sustain that note a little longer and just have it be a part of the chord. And that's a super colorful voicing that I love. So I've got E, B, F sharp, G, D, and A in the lead. And I keep going with the phrase to have this little trill just to kind of draw attention to that. Just, it's a nice ornament. And instead of going all the way to this D up here, I want to sustain this note so I can use harmonics. And that's something I'm exploring a bit with this particular arrangement, if you would. So a little turnaround and hit this D, which is the same as this note up here, on the 7th fret of the G string. And have that sustained. This is going to be a little difficult. I would actually recommend spending a little bit of time working on this so you can hit it cleanly, because what you're going to do is have that ring and then play F sharp and an open D, so you get that full D major kind of sound. And then you're going to play the high A up here, which is part of the melody. Right? So if I can get it to sustain. And then resolve it to G minor. I'm playing a G minor 9 here. So A, G, in the lowest voice, and then B flat. You'd be surprised as to how, like, just having 3 notes, but spreading them out really well really fills out the voices of an arrangement. So from there, you can bar it if you want. I prefer to do this just because it's a little cleaner for me. And then I have a little motion there, like a little counter melody, if you would. And here's where I do like a bit of reharmonization. Now it depends. Some charts will have F sharp minor, B minor. Some will say D over F sharp to B minor, whatever. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. Playing D major chord, first inversion, spread triad. Now you can play this open. You don't have to play the D there. You can play it on the open D string. So, right, and that gives it a little brighter sound. So this is something I always really tell students, or just really try make known whenever I teach this kind of stuff. Be aware of where you can place notes in a chord, because it can affect the overall tone. Maybe if you want brighter sounds or more sounds that leap out of the guitar a little more, use notes or use fingerings that are on the lower end of the guitar. Why? Because there's more tension. Whereas if you want a softer, rounder, woollier sound, you can play things a little higher up. For example, just this chord here sounds very different to that. So this is stuff to keep in mind. Now, getting back to the arrangement, and then I go to B minor 7 flat 6, which you can look at as a G over B with a 9, depends on your function. So then I have a E minor 7 first inversion. It's kind of a drop 2 and 4 voicing. So I've got G, D, B, and E. And I have another little counter melody going on. Got A over G, so instead of just playing A7 in the root, I'm actually trying to voice lead. See, I'm keeping the G in the low voice and then going, and then having my ring finger play this B with a hammer on. And then I have this little suspension, if you would. I resolve a little earlier to the melody note, but keep the old harmony there before eventually resolving the harmony to D over F sharp. Then I have like a little melodic line, just to add like to create a special moment in there's this transition happening. This is kind of why the perspective I'm using for my lines these days. I want my linear playing to have more of a transitional element than have it be a focal point. So, and recalling that chord again, just using a bit of thematic development and using voicings that I might have used earlier in the arrangement wherever I can use them. Now here I'd usually have a D minor 7 if we're playing the actual tune, but I'm deliberately playing that very full open D chord to take advantage of that. And it's very much the same as what we played before, just minor instead of major. Here we've got then a G7 with 13 and 9, so I've got G, F, B, E, and A. And this is where it gets interesting. It kind of depends on how I feel like playing it. Sometimes I want to play, and slide all the way up to that high E, which is a very dramatic way of playing it. Or if I want to be a little more subtle, use the harmonic there. And that's nice if you want to actually have that note ring out into the C triad I play here. I mean, it's possible to do that, but you have to be very mindful of your fingering there, because if I play it like this and I have that turn, I have to make sure I land on my pinky on that G so that I can slide up here and then grab that chord. So it depends on what you feel like doing, but be mindful of how you come up with your fingerings. So then play a little bit of the melody, And that passing diminished chord, which is kind of serving as a substituted 5 to get to the D minor, but so I've just got E flat, C, G flat, F sharp. You could look at it as a D sharp diminished or E flat. So, and then B, and this provides a nice little voice lead to get to my D minor voicing. So I've got D minor 9, D, E, F, C. Play a bit of the melody. G7 sharp 5, G, E flat, F, B, played G. And here I actually try, again, it depends on how I feel in the moment. This is why I like having options, because depending on how I play this, I might play it differently one day, I might play it differently on a certain gig, or however, whatever the scenario is. I can play the melody directly, and then hit the descending dominants. Or I can have like a little voice lead, a little voice-led melody, which is a really nice touch. So, and then I hit this B flat 7, another flat 9 voicing. I've got B flat, B natural, or C flat, D, F, and B flat. Before I hit some sort of run, it's usually improvised just to kind of have a nice transition to hit E flat minor. Here I'm just playing a 4th interval, B flat and E flat, gives the illusion of a much lower sounding chord. But here, let's say, I'm just using an E flat minor sequence. I actually talked about this in an Instagram story recently, just something I'm messing around with. It's taking sequences of a shape and then connecting it with other phrases or other ideas so that it sounds a little more interesting and isn't just sticking to a cliche or a set pattern that we've played a lot. So I'm just doing 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, and then root again. And hitting the 3rd of the 5 chord, 5th, and then resolving to the 1 of E flat minor. So I hope this little section of Body and Soul was helpful, just to give you a bit of an insight as to how I might arrange things or why I will make certain decisions in a chord melody, and why I'll play things a certain way, or how I come up with fingerings and other ideas like that. So if you did enjoy the video, please do like and subscribe, leave a comment. It really helps the channel and just keeps me motivated to give more stuff for you guys. And I'll be back with a lesson next week. So thanks again, and hope to see you in the next video.